back to Meet the Author. Meet the Author is a branch of the Author Event Network where we interview some of the various authors in the network. And today we have Christine Herbert, who's a memoir writer from Africa and the Peace Corps. She's got an amazing story that she has to tell about her adventures, and we're going to have a great time talking to her. Hi, Christine. How you doing?
Hi, I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for showing up. I've been wanting to talk to you for a long time about your experiences, and this is exciting.
Yeah.
Well, let's start with some of the easiest stuff. You released your debut memoir to great acclaim. Tell the audience what inspired you to want to become an author.
So the book is about my experience as a Peace Corps volunteer in Zambia, and that experience was so formative for me. You know, that really inspired me to share what I was learning about the people and the culture, and write it down and start sharing it with my friends and family. They encouraged me so much. Everyone said, "Oh, you have to write a book. You have to write a book." And I thought, can I? Can I do that? I don't think I can. But everyone was so convinced, you know, about my storytelling ability and about what I had to share was worthy of reading, that it convinced me. And, you know, and sooner or later, you know, the book was there.
The book
and
emerged.
yeah, it did. It kind of had its own journey, I guess, you know, despite me kind of railing against it. It wanted to come out.
Now, how long afterwards from the time you left the Peace Corps to the time the book came out?
A long time. So It took me, I'd say it's about 15 years or so.
Wow,
yeah,
okay.
It took me about 5 years to write it, and then another 10 years to find somebody who would publish it for me. You know, I didn't give up.
You were patient. Yeah.
I was patient, little by little, you know, pitched it to agents and editors and so forth. And I finally got a yes, you know, around COVID times, and there it is. Yeah, it surprised me. It surprised me when I finally got a yes. But I was glad that I never gave up on it.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
and because of that success, I've been really encouraged to continue writing, and I have been writing a novel and also some children's stories that have been picked up by a local publisher. So that's been a really wonderful journey.
Excellent. Well, tell us a little bit about those. Tell us about the other genres other than memoirs that you're planning to write and that are coming out.
Yeah, so my big project is a novel, and it's a dystopian future novel, which apparently for me it's much harder to write about fiction than nonfiction. Fiction, you know, is like you really have to, you know, plan and storycraft and so forth, but when it's a nonfiction, when it's a memoir, you already know what happened.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of how you're going to spin it, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's been a real journey of learning storytelling and storycraft. And that book also takes place in sub-Saharan Africa.
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah.
You picked some of the same locations. Okay.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, because it's a place that I, you know, have lived and loved and have really enjoyed writing about, and I'm not ready to let it go. You know, in my imagination, I don't know if I'll be able to go back in real life. You know, I may or may not ever be able to visit the places that I lived and people that I love there. But I can always go back in my mind. So keeping that fresh for me in my imagination is really important to me.
Excellent, excellent. Now, and you said, so you've got a memoir of Peace Corps, a dystopian novel, like a thriller or a sci-fi, or
like a sci-fi.
Okay, like a sci-fi, and then you have a children's book. So, is it the Nightmare Before Christmas, or tell us about your children's book?
So I've written a couple stories that have been picked up by Once Upon a Dance.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, so they involve movement and dance with a ballerina if the child is so inclined to get up and, you know, involve themselves in the story and add movement to the story. But the books have been illustrated by a friend of mine, Scott Partridge, who's a wonderful illustrator. He lives in Charlotte, North Carolina. And we've been friends since college and have always wanted to do an imagination project together.
Excellent.
And so we, without knowing the industry or anything, we got together and said, let's do it. This is the time to do it, you know.
Yeah.
And we wrote our first book, which has now been called Sora Searches for a Song. It's about a little cricket that's having difficulty finding his song.
Okay.
And we have one that's coming out soon. This one is about fireflies. series, and this one is called Phoenix and the Firework Flyers. Yeah.
That's excellent. Well, that's fun. That's a really great spreading out of genres and styles.
Yeah, I am not a genre writer. You know, a lot of people are a genre writer, and, you know, they're a thriller writer, a horror writer. They write cozy mysteries, and I just kind of like to read everything and write everything.
Well, that's because we have to keep working at it until we get good at it.
Practice
If you're good the first time, you can always move to something else. Well, that's superb to know. I didn't know that. I'll be excited for when your new books come out. I know that'll help you at the booth as well. You'll have more things to sell, and I'm happy to hear about that. Let's go back a little bit and tell me about what led you to join the Peace Corps.
So I had always wanted to join the Peace Corps, you know, even as a little girl. When I was growing up, we always had these Peace Corps PSAs on television, you know, and they would be just amazing. You know, they'd show these people planting corn and digging wells and, you know, building schools and teaching and all these very exotic locations. And it looked like this incredible adventure, you know, and their tagline at the end was the toughest job you'll ever love. Yeah. And that always stuck with me. I always thought, wow, what does that mean? You know, as a little kid, you're like, the toughest job you'll ever love. What is that? And, you know, do I want things to be tough? Would I love it if it's tough? You know? Yeah. For whatever reason, it really captured my imagination. And I always felt like, could I do that one day? Would I do that one day? And for whatever reason, I'd always wanted to go to Africa. And not just travel there and see it and go on safari, but I wanted to live there. And I don't know where that impulse came from, but that was always something that was very alive in my imagination and felt like that is a thing that I must do one day. Okay. When I turned 30, I just kind of felt like, okay, it's time to take stock and think about the things you always said you were going to do someday. And I felt like this is the time. If it's not someday now, when is it going to be someday? You know? And so that was the push out the door for me. I said, you know, I could put everything on hold here, put my things in storage, and go and serve in the Peace Corps. And then come back. This is always here for me. I can come back for this. And so I was a little older than most volunteers, you know, coming in at 30 instead of like right out of college. But there is no age limit on when you can serve, just as long as you're healthy enough to serve at your post. And so thrilled that I got my assignment in Zambia. And so that was the push out the door, I guess, was just kind of that life event. Yeah.
That's wonderful. And it's interesting that you did it late. And I didn't, you know, for many of us, we don't see those PSAs anymore. So there was a lot of, I wasn't even sure the Peace Corps was even operating.
Yeah.
Still.
I've had people ask me that. The Peace Corps, is that still a thing?
That's still a thing, I guess.
And it's still a thing. I feel like it's more on the down low than it used to be because I think public broadcasting systems, they used to have to show PSAs, a certain percentage of what they showed on television. So me growing up in the 70s, 80s, like I got a lot of public service announcements. Yeah. You don't see those so much now. So maybe you don't hear about the Peace Corps so much, but it's absolutely active. It's in many countries around the world. It did take a hiatus during COVID. When COVID hit, all volunteers were sent home worldwide, whether they had just started, whether they were about to finish their service, didn't matter. Everyone packed up and went home.
So how long is a Peace Corps tour?
It is 27 months, so that's 2 years, 3 months for those who are trying to figure out the math. So you go for your first 3 months, you're living with a family. They're trying not to speak English to you at all. They're instructed not to. You're learning your job skills and your language skills, and it's like 8 hours a day language skills. It's hardcore, you know. I bet. A lot of people don't make it through that first 3 months. It is a very difficult time. It's a difficult adjustment. If you do make it through, you're sworn in as a volunteer, and then you go to your site by yourself for 2 years.
Wow. Now, so give us a little bit more about what the Peace Corps does.
So there's many different assignments that the Peace Corps does. There's agriculture, environment, education, youth development, community economic development, healthcare, and that's the assignment that I had, was a healthcare assignment. Okay,
interesting. Well, let's move away from that a little bit. So, without giving it too much away from your book, what was your assignment in the Peace Corps besides healthcare, and how did that influence how you wrote your book?
Yeah, so it's funny. People ask me sometimes after they've read the book, they're like, "So what did you actually do during the Peace Corps?" Because we have these assignments. Mine was a community action for health project, so I was taking care of a lot of different initiatives: malaria, tuberculosis, HIV/AIDS, water and sanitation, child health and nutrition, maternal health. That's not really a page turner, that's a job, I don't really dwell on the day-to-day aspects of my job too much. I give you a taste.
Okay.
I give you a little flavor of that. But mostly the story is about very fish out of water experiences, just learning about the culture of the people there, fitting in, kind of that struggle of where do I fit?
Yeah.
And so the book is a lot more about that than it is about what I actually did. But I think that that's what rings true for people when they read it. A lot of the volunteers, either that have served in Zambia or in other countries, have reached out to me and they've said, "This is it. This is exactly it. This captures so much of what I was feeling and thinking and what I was struggling with. And I have to thank you. And I'm sharing this with all my friends and family because I've never been able to put it in words how this felt, what this was like." So in a nutshell, that's what the book is. It's a very emotional book. It's really taking you through the emotions of feeling what it's like to be there.
Excellent. I can only imagine how hard that would be to go to a world country like that, third world country, and really try to be on your own and fit in and find your place and build trust and build relationships, and both exciting and terrifying all at the same time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a different world altogether.
Yeah.
And part of what it was about this particular assignment in Zambia is it is so off the grid. You don't have electricity, you don't have running water, the roads aren't passable often during the rainy season, so big portions of the year you might really be cut off from people and not even able to get to the nearest paved road or a telephone.
So coming from a hyper-connected world in the USA, how did you adjust to that, and did you ever feel unsafe at times?
I've always kind of fought technology. The only reason I even have cell phone is because people insisted, my friends and family insisted, when I came back, that I must have one. And until recently, I didn't even have a smartphone, it was just like a flip phone, and I used that until the flip finally broke.
Yeah.
I don't really like being connected, by technology. I do it because I have to, and it's nice for people to be able to reach out. But I loved it, to be honest. I loved being that remote. The connectivity thing didn't bother me so much. I love letter writing. I love receiving letters. I like that it takes a long time to have that word go out and then have another one come back to you, and that anticipation of the response is wonderful for me. Some people don't like that kind of communication. They want, instant, but I love the romance of letters, I think. And so I actually love that. And I never really felt unsafe being out there in the remote areas. Good. Yeah.
Well, I think, I've spent too many years in the tech industry. It's the instant response. I have a question, give me the immediate answer. If things don't move fast enough, there's something wrong with the network. So what does the title of the book mean, The Color of the Elephant?
Yeah, a lot of people ask that from me. And, and I'm sorry to say there are no elephants in the book. So for the people at home that are watching and they're like, I love elephants.
Oh, I see you've got a hippo. Is there a hippo in the book?
Yeah, maybe. I think I do talk about hippos. Okay. Yes, I do. I do have a story with a hippo.
Okay.
But the color of the elephant refers to a line in the book. And I talk about race sometimes being the elephant in the room. At least in our culture here in America. And sometimes we don't want to bring it up or talk about race differences, maybe because we don't want to appear ignorant. We don't want to say the wrong thing. We don't want to create offense. And I wondered, well, gosh, now I'm going to be a minority in Africa. I'll be one of the very few white people. Some people, especially kids, had never even seen a white person before. Sadly, I had a couple kids run away screaming because they thought I was a ghost. So that's how remote I was sometimes. In Zambia, I thought, well, I'm a minority. Like, I wonder how people are going to address that or not address it, if they're going to kind of dance around it and not bring it up. But it wasn't like that in Zambia at all. People brought it up all the time. They brought it up several times a day, you know, that'd be like, oh, we have the Mzungu with us, or, oh, well, as a white person, you know, and ask the question. And so they were always addressing it. They never not brought it up. And I thought, well, I couldn't forget I was white if I tried, you know. And so people always brought it up, and I thought that was so interesting culturally, you know, that they always were bringing it up as to celebrate differences rather than point out differences. So I thought, well, maybe race isn't always the elephant in the room. Maybe it depends on the color of the elephant.
Interesting idea. Interesting idea. Yeah, we certainly have a lot of issues here in America, and they have a lot of historical foundation. For those who think that it's not still an issue, they're not really paying attention. They're kind of listening to their own clique. Now, you've been connecting with book clubs in the country. Tell us more about that and that process.
Yeah, so I love this. This is the best part about becoming a writer for me. Is to be able to connect with my readers. I've had book clubs all over the country, and now I hate to say thanks to COVID, but Zoom is now something that everybody knows how to do, Zooming or FaceTiming or whatever, and it's such a normal part of life. People don't even, you know, think twice about, okay, well, somebody's going to Zoom in and join us. And so I said, you know, this is a great opportunity, actually. It doesn't matter where they are, what time zone they are. If there's a book club and they're reading my book and they want to do an author Q&A with me, of course I will make the time for that. You know, of course I'll Zoom in and answer everybody's questions. And
so how did you get connected so well to the book club community?
Yeah, I think it was just through my street team. You know, I've connected with people all over the U.S. from, you know, friends and family and their friends and family and anyone who wanted to help me get the word out about my book. And I'd ask them, do you know somebody who's in a book club, or are you in a book club? Are you thinking about starting one? You know, let me know, and, you know, I'll dial in and be there for your book club. And every book club that I've done this for says it was the best book club they ever had, you know, because how often you have the author come in for a Q&A to your, you know, living room where you're sitting around and drinking wine with your girlfriends. And it's nice to be, because you want to ask questions, right?
You do.
You often want to ask questions of the author. What were you thinking when this was happening? Or what was the meaning behind this? And so it's been really wonderful, and I've loved doing that.
And I think this type of personal story with a lot of cultural influences and Peace Corps and all those dynamics, I think is perfect for a lot of the book clubs.
Absolutely.
Who really are looking for that personal cultural kind of experience. That's wonderful. Now, if people want to learn more about you, how do they connect with you?
Oh, so they can certainly find me on my website, Christine Herbert Author, and how to connect with me if they wanted me to dial in for their book club meeting. It's there, my email address. But I'm on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and all those things that I said that I really don't like to do. But but I do them, you know.
I think a lot of us as authors are not necessarily, and I came out of the tech industry, and I tend to be like, please don't put me on cameras and stuff like that, and here I am doing camera stuff. But it is necessary in this day and age, and as an author to promote your books is not an easy thing to do. So tell me about your experience. I know that you joined AEN this year. You've been on some of our bigger events this year. Tell us about that experience and how that's affected your view of how to sell your books and how to find your readers.
Yeah, so that's been an interesting journey. I've always just let booksellers sell the books. You know, I write the books, they sell the books. But this year I kind of changed tack, and I said, no, I actually want to get out there and meet people and engage with them and have them ask me questions about what it's about, see if it's their cup of tea or not. And if it isn't, then I have a whole table of other authors that are writing so many other wonderful genres, and I'll be like, oh, you like, thrillers or whatever, oh, go talk to Guy,
Yep.
I can like send people other ways, and it's just great to talk to other readers. And if nothing else, if I don't make a sale of a book to them, we have a great conversation about books and what we enjoy and the authors that we love, and we trade recommendations. So it's been really fun just to connect with readers, because not only am I a writer, but I'm a big reader.
Oh, that's wonderful. And I think it's actually one of the neatest things about AEN is that connection with readers that you actually get. And I think when you start coming out with your novel and your children's books, and those are at your table as well, I think you're going to find that you're going to be able to kind of have a much broader kind of conversation. But it is nice to have the community of other authors.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's been very supportive, and I love that, feeling part of that community.
Well, we're getting down kind of the last few minutes, but I want to find out, I know that you're going to be spreading your books around a lot of local bookstores in the Bremerton area. Tell us more about where people can go to find your book besides the Bremerton bookstores.
Yeah, so I'm certainly connecting with the Kitsap County Library, but for those who have a little free library in their neighborhood, go ahead and check your box, because I'll be like the Easter Bunny today, and I'll be hitting all the ones that I find online and putting in a signed copy of this. So if this sounds like fun to you, if you love real life adventures, or you're just curious about what it's like to serve in the Peace Corps, please pick it up. The Color of the Elephant.
Well, thank you, Christine. It's such a delight seeing you every single time. I always love talking with you. That's it for today. That's Meet the Authors with the Author Event Network. My name is Guy Morris, and this has been a lovely conversation with Christine Herbert. Thank you so much, and keep reading.